Thousands of missiles were launched against this aircraft throughout its operational history, yet none ever succeeded in shooting it down. How could a plane outrun missiles? On May 1, 1960, a single missile launch shattered American strategic confidence. High above Soviet territory, an SA-2 guideline surface-to-air missile struck a U-2 spy plane piloted by Francis Gary Powers. The aircraft spiraled to Earth. The pilot was captured, and Washington's primary window into the enemy's nuclear arsenal instantly slammed shut. The high-altitude sanctuary was dead. Early satellites were too primitive and slow to fill the void, yet the urgent strategic demand for intelligence was escalating. The White House faced a desperate requirement: penetrate heavily defended airspace, gather photographic proof of military assets, and escape before a missile could even close the distance. They needed a platform that could fly higher, but more importantly, faster than anything in history. Soviet airspace had become a closed, multi-tiered fortress. Moscow was wrapping its borders in a dense web of early warning radar networks and integrated surface-to-air missile belts. This active trap forced invading aircraft into predictable, deadly paths. Giant SR-71 tracking radars swept the skies, feeding coordinates to missile batteries that could reach altitudes once thought safe. Altitude alone no longer guaranteed survival. It simply made the target easier to see. To survive, an aircraft would have to penetrate this lethal environment, cross thousands of miles of defended territory, and somehow endure constant, active targeting. Any crew crossing the border was flying straight into a system built specifically to destroy them. It was a net with no holes. How do you design an aircraft to survive a sky where every single second is a calculated attempt on its life? Kelly Johnson and his elite skunkworks team answered with a machine designed entirely around thermal survival. At extreme speeds, atmospheric friction melts conventional aluminum, forcing Johnson to build the airframe from 90% titanium. The fuel itself, a specialized chemistry called JP7, served as a primary coolant, circulating through the wings to absorb the massive thermal buildup before entering the combustion chamber. Even the air inlets were engineered as mechanical, moving systems, constantly manipulating shock waves to feed the hybrid turbo ramjet engines. Every component was chosen to withstand a furnace. Johnson was not just building a faster plane. He was creating a thermal ecosystem that turned extreme heat into a defensive shield. Because of thermal expansion, the titanium panels did not fit on the cold hangar floor. Wide gaps remained between the seams, causing highly refined JP7 fuel to rain onto the tarmac. A deliberate design choice, not a failure. But if the ground environment was strange, 80,000 feet up was lethal. The atmospheric pressure was so low that a pilot's blood would boil instantly. Inside the cockpit, crew members wore full-body David Clark pressure suits. As pilot Brian Schul recalled, that suit was the absolute barrier between survival and sudden violent decompression in the freezing void. Survival in this lethal sky came down to a razor-thin window of human and electronic reaction. The moment a red warning light flared on the panel, the pilot and reconnaissance systems officer operated as a single machine. Their defense relied on active, violent disruption. The pilot shoved the throttles forward and initiated a steep, aggressive climb, while the reconnaissance systems officer activated powerful, deceptive jamming systems. Together, they corrupted the incoming missile's radar tracking, breaking the hostile firing solution before the weapon could finish its run. Even late in its service life, during a tense 1981 encounter with a North Korean surface-to-air missile, this exact procedural sequence turned a deadly intercept into a harmless, distant detonation. Cruising at Mach 3.2 between 85,000 and 90,000 feet, the Blackbird did not just fly, it compressed space itself. At this altitude, the world shrank. Ground defenses had mere seconds to react before the aircraft vanished. This speed-as-armor doctrine proved invincible during missions over the frozen Soviet Arctic and the Yom Kippur War, where repeated aerial refuelings stretched its reach far into hostile skies. As one pilot recalled after a grueling sortie, looking down at the curving Earth, they felt like they were riding a lightning bolt across a map, crossing entire oceans in the time it took a normal jet to climb. The Blackbird retired with 0 combat losses, cementing its myth. Yet, reality was far more dangerous. Non-combat accidents destroyed 12 of the 32 aircraft built. The public believed the plane was entirely invisible to radar, but its signature was actually 0.1 square meters, small but detectable. Survivability depended on speed and active electronic jamming, not true invisibility. Eventually, economics grounded the fleet. Operating the small, high-maintenance program cost $30 million per aircraft each year. As advanced spy satellites emerged, the Air Force mothballed the fleet in 1989, briefly reactivated it in 1995, and ordered final retirement in 1998. Today, stealth replaces speed. Yet the Blackbird remains an untouched ghost of an era when we outran physics itself. What secrets still fly in the dark? Subscribe for more.